Welcome to the Ask Arda podcast show. I'm Elizabeth Willett, and I've trained under Arda, and I'm an executive life coach. Today, I kind of want to ask you about this book you wrote,
Okay.
The Art of Becoming Unstuck. Why'd you write a book?
This is my second book, kind of a second attempt, if you will, because the first one there was nothing about me in the first book. There was so much theory, so much personal transformation phases, good examples, but it didn't go to the meat of what life is about, what the system of life is about, and what, again, that human level, that human experience level, it was not as colorful as the second book. So that's why I kind of felt I needed to write the second book to explain some of the theories at a deeper level and with more color, with more examples. And also I gave all my life into that. Like you could see lots of examples, personal examples, and everybody talks about how much they can relate to my experiences in their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what really got my attention is this hot air balloon. Why is there a hot air balloon on the cover?
So unstuck. So let me ask you, like,
what does that mean?
Exactly. The art of becoming unstuck. What are we becoming unstuck from? What is
the mud?
The mud.
Situations like you can't move forward in life.
You cannot move forward. We feel stuck. We cannot move forward. We repeat same situation over and over again every day.
What do you mean by that? I repeat the same situation.
I mean, we wake up, we need to take the kids to the school. We're always running late, rushing through the traffic that is completely gridlocked, and then go to the work and we already have a headache. The boss says something and we are tired. We just go through the day running through all these projects and to-dos, and at home or at work, doesn't matter. And then, we gather with our family for dinner, or if we are lonely, single, we are looking at, TV and preparing our dinner, whatever. Like we have a routine. And
so routines are bad, or routines are sort of like what we kind of get into, right? But there's more to life.
Yeah, I kind of feel so. Yeah, I kind of feel that there's more to life. The routines are not bad. It just, we just kind of wrapped ourselves in those routines. And that is the thing. I'm again, nobody's against the routines, right? Routines are routines. I call them patterns. And those patterns actually show up in our emotional reactions.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So because we are in that routine every day, the same thing, every weekend is the same thing, every month is the same thing, every year is the same thing. So are we living the life we want to live?
I see what you mean. Because when you said about routines and patterns, I was thinking about, in discussions with somebody, if I have an argument, I react the same way all the time. I always react the same way, and the other person reacts the same way, and then everybody's angry, and there's no way of getting out of it. But you're right. Life becomes such a pattern, we don't even think about doing it differently because we're so entrenched in the day-to-day and getting through, making the money, taking your kids to school, bringing them home. So that's also a pattern, which I really didn't think of initially.
Exactly. And because you find yourself in those patterns, and in the book we call them limiting life patterns, you keep reacting to situations same way all the time. And guess what? Nothing is changing. Because nothing is changing, even though you have these desires, these needs, these wants, right? These plans, these goals, but nothing is changing, you feel stuck.
Right. And you have to change something to get there if you're not able to get there. Exactly. But we don't know how to. What's a limiting life pattern?
So that is when limiting life pattern is that repeat, that's these situations that repeat themselves throughout your life.
Can you give me an example?
I mean, throughout your life, there is a beginning of a pattern. But let's say growing up, I felt not good enough because my dad criticized everything I did.
Right.
Or I felt controlled because every time I was going out of the house, right at the time I'm leaving the house, my mom said, don't wear that shirt, wear the other one. Are you going to wear that jacket? It's too cold. You need to get a heavier jacket or some. So I felt controlled. My dad did this, I felt not good enough. My mom did this, I felt controlled. So when you take a step back, when I take a step back, I could see that theme that I felt back then repeats itself throughout almost every situation. My friend criticizes me. I'm at the elementary school. I feel not good enough because, again, I couldn't meet his expectations as a friend or as a teammate.
So those early experiences really impact us in different ways, because as children, we don't even know what's going on. We're just trying to get by, right? And you learn. And so you're learning as you're growing, and these patterns, if somebody's saying something to you and you feel not good enough, then that follows you out throughout your lifetime.
Yes, exactly. It's a shock, right? It's a shock in the system where you are trying to get by and something brings this feeling in you that you feel not respected, not recognized, not seen, not heard, not appreciated, all sorts of slew of series of feelings. But we are not, adult enough, or I should say, conscious enough to
As
recognize
children.
as children.
Right.
As children, we're not conscious enough to recognize what is happening internally, the impressions we are receiving, we are getting, we are creating internally from every situation is not known to us. So it goes into the subconscious.
Okay, the subconscious. So there's the conscious, subconscious, unconscious. What is the subconscious exactly?
Subconscious, think about it as a database.
Okay.
It's a database. We put a situation into our database.
Oh.
Because we don't want to deal with this. We call that box, that database, subconscious, because it's under our conscious. We don't want to deal with it, and we don't know how to deal with the situations that make us feel a certain way as a kid, even adults. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years, 4,000 plus adults, and they're coming to process some of these situations without knowing what the situation is about.
Or where it came from.
Where it came from, how it just popped up in their lives.
Huh. Okay. So we have these limiting life patterns that we live by, but we're not even really aware of the limiting life patterns. And we just go day to day. And it makes sense we can't make change if we don't go back and figure out where those patterns came from or what they are.
If you don't know the source code, exactly. If you don't know the source, if you don't know the source code, how are you going to decipher this database that you accumulated over your lifetime? Right?
Interesting. Yeah. So you mentioned triggers. Now, what's the relationship between limiting life patterns and triggers?
So triggers is how a limiting life pattern enters into your life.
Okay.
In a sense, that's how a limiting life pattern starts. It's a cycle.
Okay.
Somebody triggers you.
Triggers
Somebody,
me, it makes me react emotionally.
exactly.
Okay.
A trigger is simply something, a situation or a person that creates an emotional reaction in you. That's it. So when
Okay.
that happens, you emotionally react, all these emotions are surfacing: anger, frustration, anxiety, worry, jealousy, you name it, sadness. That is an emotional reaction. That is an emotion as a reaction to a trigger event.
Okay. You mean a past trigger event or a present trigger event?
Present.
Okay. Right. So somebody says something and I just feel so sad.
Yes.
And there's a reason I'm feeling sad,
Yes.
right? There's a reason. Like anything I feel, there's probably like something that happened in the past that's making me feel that way. And if I can get to the root cause, maybe I can react differently or not have that same reaction.
Over time, you start to change your reactions
Huh.
because
That's the root of change. That we're talking about change. Let's get to this change part.
yes, let's explain this. I mean, I think you're onto something here, and you're explaining, you're clarifying beautifully. So I want to kind of stay in that little bit. So what happens is that exactly there's always a reason behind your emotional reactions. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any emotional reaction. When there is no attachment, there is no meaning to a situation,
Right.
then you will be emotionless to that situation, toward that person, or towards that situation. Therefore, you might have experienced this. Two people,
We're thinking along the same wavelength. Go ahead.
right?
Yeah.
Two
Two
people,
people.
same situation, different interpretations, different perceptions, and different reactions. Why? Why?
Because in the past, there was no pattern created around a certain event, or there weren't feelings created around something, right?
Yes. So you might be telling your friend, did you see how she looked at me when I said that? She's like,
Like what?
"No, what? No,
What do you think?
I didn't notice." Well, I noticed. Her eyes were already criticizing me. Well,
Huh. There's a reason that you think that, because something happened in the past that resembles this current situation.
maybe my mom never yelled at me, but the way she looked at me, I had to get that hint that I was doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt judged every time she had that face, that I'm doing something. And I felt I needed to correct myself to please her. And all of a sudden, I'm in the situation, I'm doing something, and I feel judged because my friend's face looks like that.
Right. How come no one teaches that to us growing up? Because that seems so helpful.
I was going to call the book Life Skills 101 as a kind of my first pitch to education ministry or minister of education, to kind of, we got to get this into the high school. We got to get this book or these teachings to high schoolers.
Even younger, I even see middle school, because what an emotion is really a message to you. Is that right? When you react emotionally, is that a message to you to look into the past to see what's going on, what hasn't been resolved?
Exactly. Absolutely. It's a message. I call emotions the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
Right? When you see the tip of the iceberg, that is when you need to put on your scuba gear and dive deep into the depths of the iceberg.
And
Because
what's underneath the tip of the iceberg?
all the reasons.
Ah.
how I develop these thought patterns that I am being, just triggered by somebody's face impressions. How do I, think about the situations? What is my perception? What is my perspective? Where is this coming from? It requires deep dive. And whenever you have the opportunity, or whenever you want to deep dive, is when you emotionally react to a certain trigger.
So is there a way? Okay, so I understand that it's very, very clever and very interesting. It's not, it's clever because I didn't know that. Well, I did know that, but not to the point that you just explained it. And many people don't know that. But let's say I figure out this, like I get the trigger, there's an emotion. I look underneath, I'm like, oh, it's because my mother really wanted me to have great grades. So now I'm a perfectionist, everything has to be. So I realize that.
Yes.
How do you change your life after that? How do you take that and make change?
So the first one is that awareness. There are 3 major phases. Okay.
Okay.
First one is self-awareness. In my sessions, so interesting, right? Somebody comes in, hey, I got this trigger. Hey, it keeps repeating. I don't know how to get out. The first time they become aware that this is a pattern, that this is not just one time, but this situation, this person, or alike, has been repeating throughout their lives. When I basically put that mirror in front of them, and they see themselves on that mirror, that the situation is repeating throughout their lives, and it is not this person, they already shift their awareness. They deepen their awareness. That self-awareness is actually becomes the fuel, is the motor to bring more and more understanding of what they are doing in their lives.
Right.
So that's kind of the process. The first you become aware of it, then you understand, tying all the dots, right? From the beginning, when did this pattern start?
Okay.
Right? So that brings more understanding, deeper understanding of their selves and of their lives. And then the third one is, third phase is usually, it comes like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months later, is the acceptance of everything that happened to them, that they are in a pattern and they can make a change. Should that
wait a minute, does that mean forgiveness? Acceptance? Does that mean forgiveness?
No, not yet. Not yet at all. Actually, acceptance is that you have these repressed feelings, that it is part of you, that you are the one who creates the patterns. In a sense, like you are the one with the repressed fears and repressed feelings, because you actually experience those in your life. So acceptance of that is, even though it sounds very simple, and we've been talking about it's very logical, it is hard. It is hard to accept. But
so how do you get to acceptance? Like say I have this awareness and then I look back, I see the root cause.
But it's my friend. It's my friend who does that face. Why does she have that face? Why my boss is doing this to me? Why my wife is treating me, controlling me all the time? Oh, wait a second. That is actually, I feel controlled. Or am I bringing this filter into my transaction or interaction with her? I
So it's
feel
sort of owning it, right? It's owning it.
You got it. You got it.
Right.
You got
And
it.
so once you own it, do you help people figure out how to change it? How to change your reactions? How to say things differently?
Yes. I mean, that's kind of towards the end of the book, right? So the whole, 2/3 of the book is understanding the patterns, the art of becoming unstuck, right? first, even before understanding the patterns, should becoming aware of your perceptions, of how
and perceptions can change though, right? This is mind-blowing, because reacting to other people, I never thought that I could have a different perspective on something.
Yes.
But through this process, you learn that you can change your reality, and by changing yourself, and comes from you, others change, others can change, others change.
So first you want to become aware of your patterns, and before you become aware of your patterns, you need to become aware of your emotions. Once you become emotional, oh, I'm reacting, I'm emotionally reacting. So when that happens, deep dive and understand your perceptions. What kind of color did you put into this situation that made you emotionally react? Right?
Yeah. Are there any favorite parts of your book that kind of demonstrate some of these concepts? Can you think of anything off the cuff, or do you just,
Yeah.
so this is a manual, right? It's a manual.
This is the manual. This is a manual for life. This is a life manual. This is a life skills training guide, if you will. I mean, there are many places. I mean, just right. We didn't talk about the sandbags, but
Yeah, tell me about, well, let's talk about the hot air balloon and the sandbags, and then read.
Yeah, I mean,
tell me.
law of life, right? Law of life number 4. Triggers are the messengers of sandbags. Okay, what is a sandbag? We talked about the repressed feelings that color our perceptions, that color the situation so that we emotionally react.
Right. And sandbags, they just bring you down, right?
Bring you down.
They hold you in place.
Bring you down. So that's why we feel stuck, running with these repressed feelings, with these repressed fears. Fear of not being good enough, fear of not being recognized, fear of not being seen, fear of not being appreciated, fear of being dismissed, fear of being lonely. All of these, they are all in the database, and we stuff them in the far end corners of the database in the subconscious, but they come up because they affect how we perceive situations, because we are programmed in our nature. We are programmed to operate in survival mechanism. We want to feel safe.
Right.
What it comes down to. Everybody thinks we want to be loved. I'm double downing on that. Actually, I'm just challenging that, because I feel deep down we all want to feel safe. If I feel loved, why is that so important to me? Because I'm going to feel safe. I am loved, everything is good. I am loved, I'm not going to be lonely. I am loved, I am being recognized. I am loved, I'm going to be included. Because I have my wife, I have my spouse, I have my husband, I have my boyfriend, I have my girlfriend. I am loved, my family loves me. I don't feel lonely anymore. The life seems bearable. I am safe.
Yeah. So it's sort of like unconditional love.
Unconditional love. Yes, that's what we are looking for.
Safety, right?
But of course, they always fail us, right? Nothing is
Everybody has a condition.
Everybody's
feels that way.
Yes. Yes.
And how about, what keeps us stuck? Like, I noticed that we have, so you said something about the repressed fears and everything. And I feel like our thoughts kind of reflect our beliefs, and sort of our thoughts keep us stuck. How do you change your thoughts? Oh, I'm such a loser, or I can't do this. I'm not a perfectionist. You don't even say perfectionism. I didn't get 100 on the test. Oh my God, I didn't study enough. I'm such a loser. Where do those thoughts come in? And our thoughts, what are our thoughts?
Yeah, the thoughts are basically the product of that conditioning.
Mm.
So let's say if I felt not good enough, okay, let's call it more recognized. If I felt not good enough, I'm sorry, if I felt not recognized by my dad, because
Right.
he was completely not interested in what I'm doing, everything I did to be recognized by him, and he did not recognize me. So I feel not recognized. So that is ingrained in me.
Yeah.
In my database, I keep that information, how I
It's sort of
felt.
like a neural pathway that's formed, right?
Exactly.
It's a neural pathway that's formed. I am not good enough.
I am not good enough. I am not recognized. Okay. So how do I take that information and bring it to my life? What do? I basically go about my life not to feel that again.
You avoid.
I avoid, exactly. So then what I do with that information and what I'm avoiding, I have two options. One, I say, you know what? My dad never recognized me. I don't think there will be anybody who will recognize me. So forget about life. I will live a withdrawn life. So I will be more lonely. I will not try to be recognized. I give up. I just become a mediocre person and just live a standard life,
But I
not
don't think
challenge.
we're aware of that, right? These are like automatic thoughts and behaviors, right? You just kind of go along. It's like, this is how it's happening. This is the way it's got to be.
Because that's how I'm coping with the feeling, repressed feeling of not being recognized. Why try? Why try? That's my one option, right? The second option, can you guess the second option?
Is try to figure it out.
You see, that is not an option. I cannot figure out because it's already repressed. I don't want to deal with it.
Oh,
I don't want to deal with it. So I'm coping with it. I have two coping options, so to speak. One is give in,
avoidance.
avoidance, give in that I am not recognized and I will not be recognized and I'm not good enough. I am just a loser. So then I go about my life feeling low self-worth, low self-esteem, and not challenging myself. The other one, I challenge myself and say, you know what? I'm going to stick it to my dad,
Oh, I see.
right? He did not recognize me, but I'm going to find people who will recognize me because I have something. So then I just go crazy, work harder and harder than anybody so that I can get to a place where I am recognized. I chase that with all my beings,
Okay.
all my being. Just I chased that all my life. So you can meet someone who is like, I don't know, just like, I just got out of this job and I'll find another one, or yeah, I'm just kind of,
It's always my fate in life. This is
yeah,
the way it always is.
yeah, yeah. That person totally give in to that repressed fear that they are not good enough, they are not recognized, they don't have value, gave in. But the other
Squashes
person,
them. Right.
yes. And the other person is not far off, by the way, because they are just working and working and working and spending so much energy on getting recognized. They might have a great life and better jobs than the other option, but deep down, it's a house of cards. They are getting triggered. They will be getting triggered because they have not addressed what's in their programming, their internal programming in their database, in their software code, if you will.
So people out there that are experiencing either just being really depressed or really anxious or high achieving and health effects, how do you figure out what to do?
Going back to that emotional reaction, that is the point. You can grab that thread, grab that emotional reaction as a thread and pull it. like an investigator. Okay, I am angry. I am anxious. Why? What was the thought right before I got anxious? Or I'm walking into the meeting and I am sweating. I cannot breathe enough. Like I just like, so my knees are weak. What is happening? Oh, I'm thinking the moment I step into that meeting, everybody's going to be looking with critical eyes. Anything I say will be judged and will be challenged. I will look stupid in front of them. That thought is the reflection of your internal programming.
Okay, so how do you break that pattern? How do you break the patterns?
Back to those 3 steps, very important. Become aware of your emotional reaction.
Okay.
Understand where the perception is coming from. The thoughts are coming from. The feelings are coming from, meaning there's a big difference, you know, emotion and the feeling, right?
Yeah.
Feeling is a thought form. I feel judged. I feel not good enough is a feeling. I react when someone makes me feel that way. I emotionally react. So I experience anger. I experience frustration. I experience anxiety. It's a big difference. So understanding deeply is that feeling of not being recognized, feeling of not being seen, not being appreciated, not being respected. That is the deeper understanding along the way of how did that come to my life, come to my system? When was the first time? Not necessarily the first time, but early on. When did I experience that?
Did you figure that out all by yourself? Because I'm sitting here thinking I would have continued on the way I've always continued on. I mean, I would try this or that, but I didn't have a template to follow, or I just felt like everything I was doing was just failing.
So I asked different people, different coaches and different intuitive healers, and looked at the numerology, look at the astrology. That's why today I am so happy to offer that spiritual awakening workshop that, you know, let people figure out who they are. And that's when you actually connect with the destiny that you're meant to meet in this lifetime, your destiny, your highest potential, your purpose. Again, back to that feeling stuck because you are carrying all of those rocks.
Right. The
In a
sandbags.
big sandbags, rocks, whatever analogy you want to use, all these sandbags in your hot air balloon, life is going up and down because the sandbags are bringing you down. Can you imagine? That's the other thing. You know, I had to write this book, The Art of Becoming Unstuck, because I realized everybody wants you to basically fire up your hot air balloon and go up and up and up and up and up. And then all of a sudden there is a big storm, there's a big trigger, there's a big life situation, and it brings you down. So I said, as an investigator of life, as an investigator of the system of life, I said, wouldn't it be better if we really solved for sandbags first? Yes, it's going to take a little longer, but all of that effort that you put in to go up and up and up and up will be wasted when there is a big storm.
So when you're talking, I'm just thinking of my thought processes and in the past, and I thought, oh, what a great day. I'm just so awesome. And then something little happens and I'm back down at the bottom of the barrel. Woo! I'm such a loser, right? I'm just like, how do you maintain like
Exactly. It's just like in a moment you're feeling great, and the next moment something happens, a trigger happens, and you're feeling a loser, like a loser. That's kind of what instigated my investigation to come up with this method, this process, power process, to let people work on their sandbags, all the sandbags, the repressed feelings, repressed fears that they've been carrying on their back, just one day after another, all their lives, right? So it's buried in the subconscious, it's buried in their database, buried in their internal programming. When you address them, you feel lighter. And that is consistently what everybody tells me. After a month or two, everybody, without an exception, when they follow these assignments that I described in the book, there are 19 of them, life skills assignments. When you follow those assignments, in 2 months, depends on the person, on average 2 months, they say, oh my God, Arda, I feel lighter.
Yeah.
Because they start releasing their sandbags, those rocks that they've been carrying in their system. The body feels better, mind feels clearer, emotional balance, everything has a little bit more space.
So you just mentioned the power process. Could you just tell me a little bit about that?
Well,
No, I want you to, I know about it, but I want you to explain it.
Well, I mean, I want to go back to that, the thing that you said, hey, what, I don't know what the power is, but.
There's
Yeah.
my perfectionistic tendencies.
Yeah, exactly.
To be
I want to
fair,
know the steps, right? But
to be fair, it was before the book came out.
exactly.
And you're like, power. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to write it down and I'm forgetting and I'm all stressed out, right?
Yeah.
And then what did you do?
I asked you,
led
what did
me
you
through.
do? Yeah.
So yes, I know, but how about our listeners? How does that power method work?
I'm going to ask them the same thing, Elizabeth. So when there's an emotional reaction and you want to know your thoughts behind your emotions, you want to know the feelings you have, the repressed feelings, you want to know repressed fears, you want to know your perceptions. You want to know your perceptions that created those emotional reactions. What would you like to do first thing? What was the first thing that you like to do when you are triggered? What do you want to do in order to go beyond your emotions, to understand, to be aware of what created them? Tell me.
Well, I don't think you launch into the trigger. You learn to like pause before you react, right? Pause, power, pause, pause.
The first step is pause. First step is pause. It spells those 5 steps that you need to do when triggered so that you can go deeper into that database.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is known, right? This is known. If you get an email, everybody told us in the corporate world, I left 15 years ago, but I was kind of still a product of the corporate world. Everybody said, you got an email, you have an emotional reaction, you are getting angry, you're getting frustrated, you are getting anxious. Leave your desk.
Yeah, don't write that email. Don't write it back right away. Leave it. It's so hard to do though, because you want to get back to that person. You want to say what you feel.
And usually when you are under the influence of your emotions, because again, it's the survival mechanism. Now it ties everything, in a nice little package here, right? The whole thing that we were talking, since it's that repressed feeling, determines your survival mechanism, determines your fight or flight reactions, right?
Yeah.
Then in the heat of your emotional reaction, the response you're gonna craft in your email is going to sound very defensive.
And then after you're gonna go, oh, why did I send that?
Exactly. You just like regret it.
Oh my God, what was I thinking?
Exactly, because you're going to look defensive, and every defense becomes an offense, and the other person get offended, and they're going to come back at you. And that is the loop of all these endless arguments in relationships, professional or personal, romantic. That's when we get stuck back to that, getting stuck in these patterns. We react to them, we become defensive. The more we become defensive, we explain more. The more we explain, we actually get into the other person's boundaries. We offend them. When you offend them, they take things personally because probably they have their own repressed feelings and fears.
What a
And they
mess.
attack you. What a mess. That is why we are all stuck.
I want to know what power means.
First, pause. What was the reason we paused? What was the reason we paused? To understand, to become aware of our thoughts. So you want to observe your thoughts.
Right.
You want to observe your feelings behind your emotions.
Okay.
You paused, you noticed the emotions. Now you observed, P-O, observe your feelings. Observe your thoughts, observe your perceptions, right? So somebody says something, I get triggered, I am angry, I pause, I am angry. Let me observe my thoughts. Let me observe my perception. I feel they disrespected me. My feeling is I feel disrespected because they disagreed with me or they challenged my point of view, whatever, or they cut me off in the traffic on the highway. So that repressed feeling, I feel not respected, is what I want to observe. As I slow down things, I start to observe that. The W is welcoming that.
Welcoming what?
Welcoming that feeling of being disrespected.
Oh, so the welcoming these feelings is the hardest part. Like, I don't want those feelings in, but it's so important.
You remember, you don't want to welcome, in a sense, more just like, it's not like, oh, my friend, come on in. It's not that.
It's not fuel to the flames, right? It's not that.
Exactly.
It's like honoring them or saying that this is existing, right?
Yeah, acknowledging.
Acknowledging.
Remember the third step, the third phase, not the step, phase, acceptance.
Yeah. Okay. So it's sort of an acceptance sort of thing, acknowledging it, this exists. Okay.
I felt disrespected. I need to respect that I felt disrespected. I need to honor what I'm feeling.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. You can't push it away. The more you push it away, the more it's going to come back, right?
Well, it's been pushed away for decades.
And now you're all aware of it. It just comes flying back at you, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Flying back at you and just like, what do? That is what you do. You just acknowledge it. When you acknowledge it, it's no longer part of your survival mechanism. Very important point of that.
So that stops that fight and flight response, right? Fight or flight response stops it.
Because now I understand why I'm angry. I understand why I'm anxious.
Okay.
I feel not good enough. I'm walking into a meeting. I'm not good enough. Dating someone. I'm not feeling not good enough, because my wife criticized me not, putting the trash in the right place, blah, blah, blah. Right. So when I understand I feel not good enough, I understand why I'm anxious.
Right.
When I acknowledge that, when I accept that, when I know that that is where my emotional reaction is coming from, it slows down its control over my survival fight or flight response system.
Okay. All right.
What do you do with this welcome, right? So there's an emotional charge always in the body. Through that acknowledgement process, you start to drop into the body to understand where this repressed fear, where is this repressed feeling?
Where it lives? Where it's hiding out, what it looks like?
Where it's hiding out? Where did I store in the beginning of time? You need to release that. How do I discharge a repressed feeling of not being seen, not being appreciated, not being recognized? When I find them in my chest, in my stomach, on my shoulders, in my throat, how do I discharge it? I let it go through my feet. And that is earthing process, which is E. So now we get to R, P-O-W-E, earthing, and R is what you want to do. Either you're going to react again, fine. In the beginning, everybody keeps reacting. We encourage them to react differently because, again, we cannot expect different results when we are reacting the same way.
That's right. You can't.
But still, first R, react. Second possible R is respond, where you're going to get more conscious with your reactions. And then the third one is rising. So when you're going to have a trigger, you're going to rise above it. You don't even need to react nor respond. It's not going to affect you. You're going to rise above the triggers. That's what it means to study the art of becoming unstuck.
And that's why there's a hot air balloon there, because you're rising, right? It all comes together.
Yes, rising and rising. And that's why we call it, I called it this, I've been looking for this name for 15 years. I've changed like 5, 6 names, the company names and this and that, the practice name. Rise to realize, because realizing that highest potential, realizing that higher flow in life, a beautiful, happy, fulfilling, joyful life, you need to rise above the triggers to realize such life.
Arda, thank you so much for writing this book. I have read it over and over again, and I always learn something new. It is a template. It is a guide to living a more fulfilling and happier life. And I have sent it to so many people. One person repeated 3 times by mistake. But this knowledge has helped me grow. And in return, I'm helping others too. And I just feel incredibly fortunate to know you and to work with you. So thank you so much. And where can you buy this book, Arda?
On Amazon. Just go to
On Amazon.
Just type in The Art of Becoming Unstuck by Arda Ozdemir. You will find it, and it's still discounted about, I think 40% or something. Not that the price matters, a couple of dollars, but
so worth it.
It is a manual for life.
It is a manual for life. Thank you so much. I think we're going to end now. I could go on, like I said last time, on and on and on. It's so illuminating what you're saying. And every time I talk to you, I get a little bit more information and something else makes a little bit more sense. So thank you. And I want everybody to remember Ask Arda, like the last Tuesday of every month, right? We have a community event. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, just to quickly, last Tuesday of every month, we are meeting for an hour. And all that information is at, you can find it on askarda.com. And you can just register for free to get the Zoom link and everything. So what we do is actually, I take calls, I take questions about life situations, life challenges. And then I do a little bit like 10-minute mini session without going too deep, without getting into deep depressed feelings and the fears and your survival mechanism. And sometimes I think we went there as the person allows us, but just to kind of get you into a clarity that you need, a more balance that you need to see a new perspective to see with what's happening in your life. And it's been fascinating. I love those. And I think more and more people are bringing their friends and family because it is helping them so much. Even 10, 15 minutes when I'm having a mini session with somebody else can relate to the process and make a shift in their lives.
Yeah. Well, listen, I am on this program to get this book into middle schools. We need this life guide into high schools. Wouldn't the world be a better place if we
Oh,
knew how to communicate, if we knew we were more in touch, more aware, right? Let's
absolutely.
do it.
Let's
That's
do
just
it.
another project.
Yeah.
It's important. Thank you so much, Arda. We'll talk next time.
It's
Thank
with
you.
pleasure. Thank you.